head over to losingmymind.com to check out our latest song, Genocide. Support our work. Now, onto the show. Check out this story in a similar vein. Vandal throws Molotov cocktail through Oklahoma donut shop window days before it was set to host a drag queen event. Second time shop has been vandalized in as many weeks. I gotta say, I don't know if... I find it really hard to believe that a guy would put on a MAGA hat and a black hoodie and then firebomb a cupcake shop. Even if there's a drag queen story hour happening or whatever, or whatever, like... Would a Trump supporter or right-wing guy be like, better put on my MAGA hat before I go and commit this crime?
It would probably be the opposite. Actually, I would probably wear like an Antifa costume.
You would?
And do it. Well, not me. I would do something like this. But if I were in that person's shoes.
Right. Yeah, right.
No, right, exactly.
No, it's a repeat of the Jussie incident, right? Like, this is MAGA country. Yeah, it's literally that, except with a hat. That's it.
Well... the issue is when one side is evil and plays dirty, they're going to do things like this. Now look, before the show you mentioned, you wouldn't be surprised if it really was someone on the right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me in this environment, no.
If they came out, right, and they arrested this guy and it turns out his name was John Smith and there's photos of him all over Trump's rallies, I'd be like, well, he's clearly crazy because we think anybody doing this is crazy, be it left or otherwise or whatever. But, I mean, yeah, right, considering the environment that we're in, you've got people targeting kids. And now, I don't know if you guys saw the Stephen Colbert apologized. The Tudor Dixon debating Gretchen Whitmer says, a guy came to me and said, these explicit books are in these schools. The Democrats won't give me answers, so I'm voting Republican. Colbert goes on his show and says it's made up. It's not real. He was forced to apologize on his show. Because if he just did a Google search, he would have realized this wasn't made up. And he opened himself up to defamation by saying, Tudor Dixon made this story up. Right. That happened. Right. So there's a lot of parents who are starting... Look, when you have Democrat voters in places like Dearborn, these are Muslims, coming out and being like, my whole family's voting Republican. What do you think conservatives, like staunch religious right conservatives are thinking when they're seeing this stuff happening to kids?
No, it's worse than that. I mean, speaking of Muslims, there was a case documented by Abigail Shrier in City Journal. A devout Muslim had a son who's autistic, and he had a really bad episode. And I think this was during COVID. So he took his son to the hospital. They lived in Washington State. And because of the COVID policies, he couldn't stay with his son overnight. So he goes home, and the next day he gets a call from the hospital, and they tell the father, well, your son's problem is not that he's autistic and had an episode. It's that he's actually a girl.
Wow.
And to this father's credit, he played it a lot cooler than I would have been. And basically, he played along and was like, yeah, just what do I do next? Like what are the next steps to basically beginning the process of affirming my son's real identity? And the hospital releases his kid, and he takes his family and moves them out of Washington State because he knew that if he would have bucked too hard, social workers would have gotten involved because the way that works, the way that the hospital, was able to confirm that he was trans was between doctors coordinating with social workers and kind of evaluating the kid. And I mean, like, we already have cases where families are being broken up by these people to transition kids. And you have people that work for organizations like US Path and WPath, these trans advocacy organizations that are saying, like, these are doctors that are saying we're working with courts to teach them how to take kids out of houses so that we can transition them when their parents are being difficult.
Well, it gets even worse than that because in places like Canada and some European countries, if the parents don't go along with what the doctors or the psychologists want the kids to do and to go along with the transition, they literally get put in jail. They get arrested for misgendering their own children and not going along with the transition of their child.
So you come for people's kids and then you're surprised that the temperature in the room rises? When you say things like, you can't stop us from transitioning your kids and we'll bring the courts to bear on you, like, you're surprised that some people might lash out?
Yeah. Now this guy either is an absolute idiot who was doing this as he is portraying himself to do this, or he's someone who's doing something just for the optics there because there was a surveillance camera in HD. He did have that red MAGA hat, and either he's an absolute dumbass who's very stupid and just has very low impulse control and then did this stupid act as a real act, or it was a setup in order to get those optics going right before the election that, of course, work in favor of the main campaign issue that the Democrats have, and that, of course, is January 6th. MAGA Republicans bad. MAGA guy firebombing this publicly lit area with a big surveillance camera with the red hat. Come on.
Not to mention he was wearing a mask. And it was the second time in however many weeks that place has been vandalized.
Right. It could be a right winger. I don't know. You know, but I just love. It's like they learned from the Justice Smollett thing. Yeah, they were like, okay, we need the people to actually wear the hoodies and the MAGA hats and yell, "This is MAGA country." Otherwise, no one will believe it.
But I get it on tape this time.
I think that's a good point. Is that every incident like this is framed as part of this bigger narrative of like, basically. I mean, it's so obvious, right? Like the media is trying to turn the Paul Pelosi thing, this thing, into the case for why you should not vote Republican during the midterm elections, because they have no other case, right? Like they've completely doubled down on being insane going into midterms. And I think there's a recognition of that. Like, well, the only thing that could convince people to not vote Republican or whatever is to convince them that there's this like imminent mass violence that's going to happen after midterms.
I mean, yeah, but from Democrats.
Well, I mean, you're hearing this, right? Like,
it's them. They're going to do it.
Well, they're saying
like vote for us or else.
Yes,
that's basically what we're being told.
Literally, like 6 days until democracy.
Did you see that guy on MSNBC who said that the Republicans are going to kill your children?
Beschloss? I think that's, he said 6 days until democracy ends.
He said they will murder your children.
Yes.
I was watching and I was just like, this guy's lost it. But hey, you know, like when I say civil war, everybody, that's your cue. It's because of people like this.
Drink.
There you go. Hey, if you got it. But he's
really,
going.
Really
he's
good,
going.
By the way.
Luke poured himself a lot.
Hey, I got the pour. Okay, I didn't pour myself the glass. Someone gave me the pour.
Where's yours, Louis? Tim?
I finished it.
Oh, you did. You
I didn't give myself that much. It was just, you know, to sip it.
This is a burden, not a gift. Okay.
No, it's a burden.
By the end of that glass, it will feel like a burden. I bet.
Yeah, it's a cognac.
Maybe. I wonder if I can try and find that video while we're talking. You guys keep talking. But yeah, this guy goes on MSNBC.
Yep.
He's raving. Yep. And it's normal to them to have him go on the show and say this stuff. Look, you know, people have a meme about me saying civil war. But my approach is always like, you know, we hope it doesn't happen. We're kind of on that path. It may be an informational warfare. It may be fifth generational. It may just be this, but who knows? It really could get crazy. Yeah. This guy goes on and says, 6 days. They could kill your children. And who knows if historians will even be able to write anymore.
It's wild.
None of the ones that are currently writing should. That's my position. But I think that you actually should take these people at face value when they say things like that. And I think it's a mistake that the right makes or conservatives make, that they don't take people who are insane seriously. Like people like this, if given power, would absolutely do things to hurt you and make your life worse.
Yeah, I was thinking about people that are in pain, taking them seriously, like people that are young people that feel like they're in the wrong body or transitioning their bodies. Like it's not right to laugh and joke and point, because like they're real people, and if you do ignore them, the threat will get worse. It could become a real threat. Like, yes. So it's you got to take this stuff seriously.
So when they're saying things like that, yeah, I mean, like I mean, obviously it's funny to hear that, but at the same time, it's like, no, you give these people the power to hurt you and they will do it. Absolutely. Because they see themselves as the victims. They see themselves, although the establishment is completely on their side, they absolutely view you as the oppressor, and they're going to act accordingly.
I thought that it was very strange this guy was wearing a MAGA hat. MAGA?
Well, it looks like a MAGA hat. I don't know what it says.
Oh, really? So they don't know.
It's a red hat with white letters, and it's got some trim on the brim.
It's the kind of thing where, like, if some random guy, some random, like, Indonesian dude, shout out to Indonesia, went and, like, burned a house to the ground and then laid down, like, a piece of paper on the ground that said Trump on it next to the burned rubble. Some media would be like, Trump's supporters, and you're like, what?
The media is reporting it is a MAGA hat. The Daily Dot is, yes.
So remember when that football player, like ex-football player, tried opening like a pizza and a wing place? Mm-hmm. And then he vandalized them and then wrote like MAGA and like racial slurs. And then they were like, it was actually him who did it.
I missed this.
Or there was a church that got burned down. And then the dude put like a racial slur on the ground, and it turned out like it was the pastor that did it, and they were just trying to frame the right.
Yeah, this happens all the time.
Yeah, rural right-wingers are not getting in their cars and driving into cities to seek these people out. I mean, the amount of work involved in that, I don't think the average person has.
And if you're going to commit a crime, right, check out the place for surveillance cameras, and then maybe, knock the surveillance camera down, but don't frame yourself right in the middle of it when it makes the perfect shot of this propaganda that we're seeing shared everywhere right now.
I think there was a story in the Wall Street Journal that actually argued that, like, in these days, more often than not, or at least at an alarming rate, a lot of these, let's call them hate hoaxes, are fake, and they're perpetrated by the supposed victims. Yep. Like, this is in the Wall Street Journal, and I think that's so why wouldn't it be the case that people on the right might be less inclined to do this stuff? And I think there's an understanding that, like, you will go to jail. Like, unlike the left that, burned down half the country in 2020, and pretty much everyone who was involved in those riots got off with either a slap on the wrist or no slap at all. Like, if you get caught doing something like this and you're actually right-wing, like, you're going to jail for a long time.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.